Welcome to INN CEO Talks. In this episode, I'm joined by Al Fabbro, the president and CEO of Midnight Sun Mining. We're talking about copper and cobalt in Zambia, Africa. Al, welcome.
Thank you.
Why Zambia?
Well, Zambia, we call Zambia beginners, Africa for beginners. It's a great country. It's English speaking, English law. They had their independence from the Brits in '62. They've never undergone a undemocratic change of government. We just had a change of government about a year ago. It went swimmingly well. They all behaved very nicely. And this new government's ready to lead them into the 2030s.
So what does that say about Zambia as a mining jurisdiction?
The jurisdiction is excellent. The geology is spectacular. The largest copper mine in Africa is our neighbor. It's Kansanshi, owned by a Canadian company, First Quantum. It's underexplored, considering its geology, large part because of past government's greed. They did nationalize the copper industry in the 80s. So whenever a country nationalizes something, you lose decades of exploration and investment.
But has that legislation been overturned since?
Yeah, absolutely. And this new change of government has been spectacular for the mining industry. It's created an environment where literally it is a win-win for the company and the country.
How many projects do you have underway?
We have one, but that's sort of a misnomer because we've got 600 square kilometers of ground in this package, right? So if we put it over live Vancouver, we'd go from here to Langley and across to Tsawwassen and back. So it's a huge tract of land. The average claim in BC is 1,500 feet by 1,500 feet, and most companies don't have 100 claims. And we would have thousands of claims within this claim block. So it's one project, but there's 4 different deposit types on the project, and you can almost treat them like mini projects in its own right.
So what do you know about the known resource within your claim then?
We don't have a known resource as yet. That's one of the problems we've had is continuity in mineralization. We've drilled spectacular drill holes, and then and we finally think we have it figured out, and then the mineralization goes away. So back 3 years ago, we decided to bring Rio Tinto in, their expertise, their money, and let them have a crack at it. They made quite a generous deal with us. They had 2 hard years of exploration. They were looking for something generational. They didn't get it in their early work and decided to hand the project back to us.
So where do you go from here?
I hired a guy named Dr. Simon Dorling out of Australia. He's German trained, spent most of his life in the Zambian-Congo Copper Belt, and he wrote a targeting report on our earlier data, where to go hunt for copper on these claims. And right after he wrote this report, Rio Tinto did the deal with us, so that report sort of got lost in the wash. So I decided when I sensed that Rio Tinto was getting cold feet on this project, go back to Simon with all the data that Rio had generated, all the drilling, all the geophysics, all the geochemistry, and say, okay, have they killed this project? Where do we go next? Thoughts like we don't want to waste our time or energy and resources going after something that can't become a mine. So he took me about 2 weeks. He came back with a 20-page report saying that Rio Tinto was totally focused on one idea. It was a good idea. He thinks they're right. He says their interpretation of where it is wrong, but fair enough. We'll see that. And this drilling program we're doing now, we'll see that. But he looked at other spots where Rio Tinto ignored. We had made a discovery in 2015 on an area called Mitu, and we had some nice high-grade discoveries, maybe 10 meters of 4%, maybe 0.6, 0.7 cobalt in there. So there was a cobalt kicker that's not present at Kansanshi or any part of this western part of Zambia copper belt. So this is the first cobalt we've discovered. And for some reason, Rio was not interested in that. I think mostly because of the size parameters. They believed it couldn't get big enough to fit their needs. They wanted 20 billion plus billion pounds of contained copper. And this thing probably, if we're right, and I think we are, it's going to contain somewhere between 5 and 8, maybe.
So your next steps, as you say, you're now moving forward. Where do we go from where you're at right now?
We're drilling right now. We've reinterpreted the Mitu structures. Simon's done a lot of structural interpretation. He thinks that we misinterpreted the Mitu trend. We had it going north-south. He thinks it goes north-northwest.
Oh.
Okay. We drilled 2 holes off our best hole, 11 meters of 4%. We've got the structure, but we got weakly mineralized. So we went up to the northern structure, which is about 3 kilometers apart, drilled a fence of 3 holes across that structure and nailed it. We've got really high-grade looking copper in core. It's being cut as we speak, and it's being sent for assay, and we should have results in the next 30 days.
Okay, that's pretty exciting news.
This is it could be a game changer. It's early days yet. Again, we always fight this problem of continuity. We think we figured it out, but it's going to take a lot more drilling to do that.
Do you have the financial resources you need right now?
We do. This budget is funded for 4,500 meters. We've got 1,000 meters done, so we still have 3,500 meters fully funded. That will take us to the rainy season and then to start up again in maybe March or April, depending on how long the rainy season is.
So from a company structure perspective, do you plan on going back to a major again, or are you saying?
Well, it depends. You might not need it. The major that would be of most interest to us now would be somebody like First Quantum. They're investing over $1 billion to expand their current operations. They've got a huge operation there. It's a one-shop stop. They've got an oxide plant. They've got a sulfide and mix plant. And then they also have a smelter on site. And it's one of the most effective smelters in the planet. So one of the side effects of having an effective smelter is you create a lot of sulfuric acid. And you either have to get rid of the sulfuric acid or you use it. So they're looking for any form of copper oxide mineralization they could find, and that would be a saleable product to them.
Okay, so investors are saying, Zambia, I see it. You've looked at the project with Rio Tinto, but that didn't quite work out the way that you were hoping. But now you've gone back and you're starting to prove resource. Why is now the time for me to be investing in Midnight Sun?
Well, I think there's a bunch of reasons. So we want to go the industry route with the electrification of the world. Copper is going to be a huge commodity. Cobalt, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know.
It's essential in battery manufacturing.
It is in batteries, but you never know with batteries what they're going to find something cheaper, better that might replace cobalt. So you can get stuck in the cobalt game like we got stuck in the molybdenum game 15 years ago. There's a little more cobalt out there than we think there is, and it will come on supply as the price increases.
Right.
But we do like both metals. And then what we do find here, that where we are, there's huge deposits. Kansanshi was probably a 2 billion plus 1% deposit. Robert Friedland's Ivanhoe is just 150 kilometers north of us in the Congo, the DRC, but there's in excess of 100 billion pounds of copper in that deposit. Sentinel Mine, 100 kilometers to the west of us, is 20 billion pounds of copper. Barrick's got another one that's 10 billion pounds of copper. I mean, this is good hunting.
You're in a good neighborhood.
We are in a good neighborhood, and it's great infrastructure. I mean, First Quantum's haul roads go right through our property. Probably the longest road we would have to build to get ore to the haul road would be 2 or 3 kilometers.
So it's an exciting time to be looking at Midnight Sun.
It's a cool spot, yeah.
Well, when can we look for future news releases?
Well, because of what we're seeing to date, we're going to add a second drill. That should start next week. We will probably news release that sometime next week, just that sort of an update report pre-assay. And then the next one will be the assay of those 3 holes up on the northern structure.
Great time to be looking at Midnight Sun.
It is, I think so. It's been 9 years, and we've had our ups and downs, but we've stuck with it, and And I think it's going to pay off for us all.
Well, 9 years is in that sort of sweet spot in mine development. You know, it can take anywhere from 9 to 15 years as a rule. So you're in a good position.
Yeah, we do. We agree with you on that. And we do think that if we don't find the generational mine, if we find something smaller, but that can complement First Quantum's operations, there would be a deal to be done there to use their facilities with our ore. So there's lots of ways that this can get developed.
Yeah, well, lots of opportunity. I wish you great success.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for joining me.